If I'm right about that, I want to be in gold. I want to be in silver. I want to be in Bitcoin. I bought some Bitcoin. I bought Ethereum because I think tokenization reality is going to start to set in the summertime. I don't think enough people are talking about tokenization and what's happening and what they've basically announced to start in July. AI agents are with us. They need food, and that food is not physical food. It is tokens. There's been a shortage. That's what's worked. I think now we're going to run into a supply-demand issue, and that's going to be about more inflation than what people expected. And if that's the case, I don't want to be in semis as much as I want to be in power.
Drop a comment. Are you in Bitcoin or still on the sidelines? Watch this before you decide. If you want to stay up to date on Bitcoin and crypto news, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a beat. This is going to be a good one. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I think for the things that are parabolas right now, they match up with one fundamental reality that's shown up. So beginning about a year ago, and it was May, I wrote a paper on inference. And for those of you who've listened to this for a while, this is obviously an AI conversation piece. But inference really started to have an impact on things a year ago. And that was when almost every company started in their earnings talking about how inference demand was taking up. Now, inference was because we had launched the first reasoning models. So I want people just again to think about, let's go from chatting, where the models are just literally regurgitating answers back out, to where they're taking more of a thoughtful time period. Once you take longer to think out an answer, you're in the inference mode. And, you know, the analogy I've given to people is if you ask someone what 2 + 2 is, they say 4 without having to spend any energy. If you ask them what 17 × 28 is, they got to go through and take more energy, and it takes more time. So they have to reason through however that means for them. At the end of this year, or last year, sorry, when Opus 4.5 was released, we went from inference and reasoning to that same inference and reasoning being about action. And so, again, simplest way for people to think about it, we had chat, and now we have co-work and code. Those two buttons, or those two toggles on side Claude, since everyone now can say they use Claude, that's where action started to take in, where now these digital employees that are working behind the scenes are doing multi-step. That just led to more demand of tokens. So when you look at beginning of 4.5, you will see a parabola in token usage. Mm-hmm. You will see a parabola in the revenue, the annualized revenue run rate for Claude. I mean, now it's up to 44 billion. We're at pace to be at 100, another 10 timeser. So the parabolas are being formed by the reality by everyone that, oh my God, we need more. Now, back in September is when DRAM prices started to go up. That was before Opus 4.5. That was purely from the inference needs and the memory that we needed now. Now we've moved into the next phase. So the reason I wrote a paper about Marvell is because we started realizing that, oh my gosh, we need optical fiber because this is a different sort of data center. This is different inference. We got a lot of stuff going on. It's not just memory. It's action, do this, memory, action, do this. So that's why Corning, we talked about Corning back in November. Look where Corning stock is now. So these stocks have all gone through this parabola for a very, very valid reason, which is the earnings and the build out necessary for the agent world. We didn't know how big it would be. We didn't know how fast the adoption would be. And this is a mistake that people have made continuously since 2013, which is they made it with the Mag 7. They made it with NVIDIA. And after ChatGPT, in the exponential world, things move at an exponential pace, and that is a parabola.
Did you see the clip of Dario Amodei sitting on stage talking about why they did the deal with SpaceX? And he basically was like, we planned our business for 2 or 3x, and then we went all the way out and said the outlier would be if we could 10x our business. And he goes, the problem is that we didn't 10x, we 80x'd the business. Whenever you have, 8 times more than the wildest dreams of the companies who are actually building the products and services, how does an investor, kind of model that out?
And this is the issue. We're dealing with, I heard someone say this on a podcast yesterday. You went from hockey sticks to poles. Like, and that's the way these charts look. Yeah, Hut 8 and all of the Bitcoin miners are interesting for a few reasons. First of all, they're listed as software companies.
Mm-hmm.
So they're inside the IGV. And, this weekend, I'm going to show charts of just the overlay of crypto equities, Bitcoin miners, and then Bitcoin and Ethereum and software. If you take out the Bitcoin miners, the software names as like an index are still sitting near the lows, while the Bitcoin portion is going higher. And the reason is, if we go back to the 5-layer cake, which we talked about with Jensen Huang, the base of that, which I included in my Your CapEx is My Opportunity paper, is chips and energy and power. That's compute. So everything you're describing with this is compute. So what did Larry Fink say this week? He said, very soon we're going to have compute futures. Compute is a commodity. And it's a commodity because it's the packaging of two pieces of hardware that, again, you're dealing with electrons to try and get bits out, intelligence out, tokens out. And for that, you need power and you need the chips. You need a lot of other component pieces in there for the infrastructure, the cooling and all that. But really what you need is that. So when we say compute, Anthropic's looking for compute. And if you're a Bitcoin miner and you have compute because you built something related to crypto, you always have to remember the linkage between artificial intelligence and crypto, the linkage between crypto and code. All of these go together. And again, the reason this is so important, AI agents are coming every day, more and more. And I just keep saying, eventually you'll start to recognize with stablecoins, with tokenization, that the guardrails need to be going at the speed that all of these miners knew needed for what was necessary for crypto. So the speed of crypto, both on the parabola side, it's the OG of parabolas. Well, now we've got stocks doing parabolas. None of the people I know on Wall Street like Bitcoin. They don't like Micron from 100, now it's 650. If they didn't get it at 100, they're certainly not going to buy it now. They're going to wait for it to get back to 550, 450, 350, 250. And this is this like kind of framework of when you're at this point where compute is in shortage, I think you have to decompose what fits the compute side and realize that all of those parabolas you're seeing, they're related to compute.
A company that was trapped was formerly MicroStrategy, now known as Strategy. They have employed a brand new Bitcoin strategy. You like that transition, huh?
Yeah,
pretty good, right?
It's very nice.
And then speaking of psychological impact, another transition. Michael Saylor recently explicitly said he may sell some Bitcoin to fund dividends. Surprisingly, the price of Bitcoin was higher 24 hours later, not lower. Is that because people don't care? Is that because the market already figured you'd have to sell Bitcoin at some point? Or are we now being driven higher by something other than Michael Saylor and those types of companies buying Bitcoin?
If you ask me why something moves, which you seldom do, I'll always say the same thing. On any given day, who knows what's going on?
I have a theory why Bitcoin's going higher. No inside information, but I have a strong theory.
Here, you give your theory first.
The U.S. government.
Is this a theory or a conspiracy theory?
No.
Okay.
I'm putting pieces together.
Okay. Connecting dots. Good.
So I think there's two different White House officials who have said that there will be an announcement about the strategic Bitcoin reserve in a few weeks. There seems to be a persistent bid in Bitcoin that would suggest that someone is aggressively buying Bitcoin. Most people assume that Saylor is that buyer. I think he's probably part of it. But if in a couple of weeks we find that the U.S. government has accumulated more Bitcoin and been purchasing in the open market, that would explain why Bitcoin has gone from 74, 75,000 to 80 to 82,000 in, a short period of time, is that having that persistent bid there would be a big driver, especially if they need to accumulate, billions of dollars of Bitcoin in order to make it impactful. I don't know that to be true, whatever, but just like, hey, we have an announcement coming and Bitcoin is trading up. Maybe it's people thinking that the government's buying and they're front running or something, right? But just like there seems to be something related to that government announcement that may be a leading indicator of why Bitcoin's going higher.
The BlackRock ETF, shares outstanding, all-time highs. All-time highs. So It's higher than when it was 126,000. That means that in a what is considered a bear market to most people, most podcasts I listen to in crypto, it's amazing how much this 4-year cycle, like it'll never die. We're in the middle of the 4-year cycle. It's not going to end until the end of the year. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to listen to this forever. Whatever the case is. It's like the boogeyman's around. Yeah, it's the 4-year cycle. Well, the boomers, because that's what the BlackRock ETF is, the boomers, okay? The wealth managers. Morgan Stanley creates, I mean, if you
Morgan
go
Stanley's
through,
over 200 million in like 2 weeks.
and if you go through where we were at the beginning, like the boomers are buying it, they're adding it to asset allocation. So my whole story about this IPO type thing where the OGs are getting out and they're transferring ownership to the boomers, if they're buying during a down move, I just want to let people know when this thing goes higher, they will be buying in an up move.
Of course.
No question. So they're in.
Oh, they chase too? They're not disciplined?
Yeah, no, they're, well, here's the thing. And again, I'll say it again and again and again and again. The growth asset bucket has died. A lot of money is stuck in dormant assets. So tokenization is actually needed for no other reason, for price discovery for a lot of these things that they're trapped in.
It's funny you say that because Anthropic is trading in the like tokenized pre-IPO perp future world.
Yep.
Binance Research has a really good report out that shows Anthropic, OpenAI, and SpaceX are all up on average 88% over the last 6 months in the like pre-IPO perps. And people are they're gonna find a way to get exposure to this stuff.
The reason these things, in my opinion, are still so cheap is because institutions just won't buy them at these levels. And if they do, they're just buying small amounts.
I am looking for, here we go. A guy on Twitter named Joseph Jacks. He tweeted out a prediction. So his thought process, but he said Anthropic will surpass Alphabet in revenue by mid 2028. He says this is not a bull case or an acceleration scenario. It is a continuation of the curve already in evidence. Anthropic's ARR went from $1 billion in January 25 to $9 billion in December 25 to $30 billion in April 2026. And now we're at $44 billion, what they're saying. It's a 3.3x step in a single 4-month window, and the curve has been steepening, not flattening. He says, my projection actually assumes deceleration from here. So they'll be at $100 billion by the end of 2026, $340 billion in 2027, $850 billion in 2028, and then $1.4 trillion in 2029. And then you cross over with Alphabet happens around somewhere $575 billion or so in mid-2028, not because Anthropic accelerates beyond today's pace, but because Alphabet, which has been locked in at about 15% year-over-year growth in mature ads and cloud business, cannot match enterprise AI's adoption physics. Do you think something like that could happen? Like, does that sound crazy to you just off the top of hearing it?
Do I think it could? Yes. I've kind of...
I mean, that's crazy.
Well, but again, that the reason it's possible is because so many people doubt it. I mean, most people think it's a bubble still. I hate to say it, but rather than, so a bubble is by definition, they think there's a better entry point. So I don't think anyone disagrees with AI anymore. I just think buying now makes no sense to them. What you're saying and what Joseph is saying is exactly the problem. If that occurs, it's not the size of the numbers, it's the consistency, because for that to happen, Micron needs to be higher. Marvell,
everything has to be higher.
Everything that has work needs to be higher, because that's the only way that works. Their revenue is completely dependent on those two layers of the stack. So I will keep saying it again and again. Nobody on the institutional side was ready for this, and it got away from them too fast. End of story. Now, if you guys are sitting at home trading these names, again, I've said, okay, I've reduced I didn't say I sold all of it. I'm staying in a third of it, and I won't buy any more unless it falls. And the only reason I would buy it if it falls is if there's a panic and I see things going down, I will buy more. I haven't sold anything in Marvell worth anything. So if anything, I sold 10%, and that was just being disciplined. But again, I moved that money into things that I think will outperform. But if you ask me, Marvell is still something that I think will outperform Micron from here. There's other stocks like Infineon and other power semi names, which are just starting to me. And the reason they're just starting is because I'm looking at the phones, the computers, the cars. Then the humanoids, all the modern warfare. Silver to me is a no-brainer for me. If people want to get involved in it, that's great. I just think this build out's going to happen because I believe the either Anthropic will get those numbers or someone else will.
When the skeptics are still waiting for a pullback and institutions have already missed the trade, and boomers are quietly buying the dip through ETFs. The window might be smaller than people think. This isn't a call to YOLO. It's a call to pay attention. If this changed how you're thinking about Bitcoin and AI, smash that like button and subscribe. We cover these conversations every week so you don't have to connect the dots alone. Link in the comments to the full episode.